and welcome. We are here for our very first debut of In the Zone with Joan. And I am your host, Joan Minnery. And this is our very first interview. So we're going to learn as we go along, but I'm very honored to be joined today by Brenda, my very first guest. And we're going to be talking about COVID. We're going to get candid with COVID, and so we'd like to say hello to Brenda, and here she is.
Hello. Thank you so much, Joan, for inviting me to do this. Um, I am an educator, and basically, I have been in this area of Brantford since 2005. I've really enjoyed living here. Um, I don't know what else to say.
That's okay. I don't want you to reveal your age, but I'm going to assume that you are over 45.
Yes, I am over 45 and under 65.
Okay, so there we go. I should just okay. So just want to establish that. So the reason why I invited you on the show today is, as I was talking to you in the pre-interview. Um, a year ago, when COVID started in phase one, we all were waiting to find somebody or know somebody who had COVID or tested positive. And at that time, it was like, well, I don't know anyone. I'm hearing about it, but I don't know anybody. In phase two, it was like, I know someone who knows someone whose aunt who lives next door to someone who had COVID, who was at the hospital. And then after Christmas, that circle started getting very small. And since January, not only is it that we know people with COVID, we know people who are up at the hospital. Some of us, now, thank goodness, I touch wood, have not tested positive and do not have COVID. But Brenda, you did. So we
I
would like,
did.
yes, and we would like you to tell your story of how did you know you had COVID, or did you know? And when did this happen?
Well, January 1st, New Year's Day, in the morning, we went for a drive because I believe it was part of the lockdown. So we went for a little drive, and in the afternoon, I started feeling really funny. My stomach was hurting, and I told my husband I'm going to bed. That's exactly how I felt. Um, and then it progressed. I had 9 days of headaches, really bad, intensive headaches. And frankly, I don't have a lot of headaches on a regular basis. I sometimes get pressure headaches because I have poor sinuses, but other than that, I'm basically healthy. I had some mucus, a lot of coughing. I had a low-grade fever, and it did start with a sore throat, a very mild sore throat,
Okay.
but it progressed relatively fast, actually. I didn't have any vomiting because I wasn't eating for 9 days. If I had one piece of toast with nothing on it, that was good. I was hoping to lose a lot of weight, but it didn't happen. I did lose a little bit, but not a lot. Um, I was tired a lot. The first 9 days, I could barely hold up my head. I was always trying to get out of bed, but always having to go back shortly after that. I did have two nurses. Well, actually, January 6th, I said, okay, that's it. I was feeling terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had flu before, but it's usually 24-hour flu. But this was nothing like, I mean, I've never had anything like this before. So I thought I better go get tested. So on January 6th, I went and got tested. And then on the 9th, which was the Saturday, I got my positive test result.
Now,
So I was,
did you get a phone call, or did you just find out that you were positive online?
I found out about the same time. It was funny because I checked it. She told me 3 to 4 days to get an answer back, and that was only the third day. So I did check just about 5 minutes before she called me to see, and I was shocked that yes, I tested positive.
Okay.
And then she called just shortly after. I'd say about 5 minutes difference, and she said, "Have you had a chance to check your test?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I have." And she said, "Yes, you did test positive." And then she tried to tell me, oh, it was a long process of her talking to me on the phone, which at that time I could just barely hold up my head. So I handed the phone to my husband. I said, I'm said to the nurse, "I'm really sorry, but I can't go any further." I had no energy, um, zero taste buds. And I said to the nurse, "Please, can my husband talk to you?" So he took over, and it appeared to be an hour of her telling him what to do, what not to do, and whatever with me. um, and then she sent me notes through the email as well. And then there was another nurse. Well, actually, that first nurse told me the other nurse would call like 48 hours later, but she called like 2 hours later. And she wanted to talk to me, but she was a lot shorter, so it was a lot better. I forgot to tell you, I did have chills, and I did have mucus as well, a dry cough. And I did say to the nurse, I said, "How do I know when I'm finished with this COVID?" And she said, "Well, and I could just barely talk through the telephone without coughing. And she said, "Well, when you can stop coughing for 48 hours straight, you're good to go."
Okay, so she said when you can stop coughing
Stop coughing.
for 2 days straight, okay, so 48 hours,
Yes.
that was when you could go back out in public, you go back to work, or that you knew that COVID had passed.
That was when I could proceed with my life.
Okay.
That's when, I was able to leave the house
Okay.
after 48 hours of no coughing. But when I was talking to her, that was impossible. Like I was coughing a lot. It was
So
a dry cough.
just so for our viewers and our listeners, so
Right.
January 1st, you started feeling not well.
Yes.
January 9th, you're told you have COVID and you've tested positive. So you've already had COVID, as far as you know, for 9 days, and you're definitely nowhere near this 48-hour mark that you
No,
could go outside.
definitely not. No.
So from January 9th, how long was it until that cough subsided?
Um, that subsided. Well, I didn't feel normal or myself until I had a Tuesday on the 19th of January. I had a meeting to attend on Zoom,
Okay.
and I could not clear, and I've been on Zoom lots of times. Like there's no reason why I couldn't get on Zoom, but I could not think clearly to get on Zoom.
Wow.
I was foggy.
You were really foggy.
I was foggy.
And we've heard this from several
Yeah,
people about, they called it the COVID fog.
it's true.
And that happened to you.
That did happen to me. So then I after half an hour of trying to get on Zoom, and again, I've been on Zoom lots of times, no problems at all. And it wasn't a computer technology problem. It was the fact that I couldn't think it clearly through to get on Zoom.
Okay.
And that's huge for anybody who's been on Zoom. They would understand that. So 2 days later, which was the 21st of January, I had another Zoom meeting that I was able to get onto.
So this is literally 3 weeks later
That's right.
from when you first started feeling unwell.
That's right.
And the 21st of January, you're finally able, your brain's functioning a little bit better, and you're finally able to get on Zoom. And now, had what were the symptoms? What did it feel like? The flu? Did it feel like a cold? What is it? Like tell the viewers what.
Well, it feels more like the flu than anything, but it's like a flu I've never experienced in my life before. Because, like I said, I've only had 24-hour flu in my whole life. That's all I've ever had. So I would say that it was the closest to the flu, but I had like almost every symptom that's on the chart.
Okay.
Like I had the diarrhea, I had the dry cough, I had the chills, I had the low grade fever, I had the headache. I did not have a runny nose. That's one thing I did not have. And I didn't
And
have vomiting.
I'm hearing that from several people that about the lack of the runny nose. That
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a cold, it's not the flu. Now, did you and this I wanted to just touch again on this COVID brain. Um because some people were saying like they forgot who they were. They did, they were forgetting appointments. They were forgetting, where they were in the calendar. Did you have any of that? Did you find yourself you getting forgetful?
Well, I wasn't doing much. I was literally going from the bed to the sofa to the sofa to the bed. So I didn't have to use my brain that much. You know what I'm saying? I
Okay.
was always in my own environment.
Okay. So, when did you go back outside? So you had been in for 3 weeks. Do you remember?
I think I think if I remember right, because my birthday is January 22nd. So that's why I'm remembering the dates more than what some people would remember.
Okay, sure.
I believe I went out on the 23rd for the first time.
Okay. And how that must have felt surreal because had literally
Yes,
you had spent all of 2021 inside with COVID.
that's right.
Wow. Were you scared?
There were times I was scared because when the nurse called the first time, she said, "Be careful." She said, "Do you feel you should go to the hospital?" The nurse asked me.
Hmm.
And I said, "Well, no, my goal is to stay home," because I knew how many patients were already in the hospital
Okay.
with COVID. Okay. So I was going to do whatever I had to do to stay home.
Okay.
Like, I mean, if ultimately, well, like she said, if your heart starts racing, I want you to call Emerge and go by ambulance to the hospital. And when you get to the hospital, you tell them you have COVID.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And there was two nurses that basically said the same thing. So,
So wow. So that's very frightening.
yeah.
And so Brenda, you're an educator, and we're going to leave it at that. We're not going to disclose where you work for confidentiality reasons, and just for your own privacy. How do you feel about people denying that this exists? We don't want to talk about it. You have had COVID,
Yes.
and so like, how do you feel about that? What does that must make you? Does it make you angry? Does it make you sad? Like, what's your thoughts?
My first thought is anger. And I find it very disrespectful to the nurses and the doctors that are working so hard to look after us. It's no one wants to wear a mask. It's not your accessory of choice, but it is what it is.
Hmm.
So I think there should be an acceptance. Standing around side by side in a large group like, yes, I get angry with that.
You get angry because you're a COVID survivor.
Yes,
Um, now you again, you're in that age group. Have you been vaccinated? Will you be vaccinated? What's
absolutely.
okay?
I was vaccinated before my age group came up because I was so scared.
Okay.
I certainly don't want it again.
Okay.
This is one thing I do not want ever again.
No. Yeah. So well,
So,
again, I don't think we would wish this on our
no
worst
one,
enemy.
no.
And, so, is there anything you would like to say to someone who is just finding out today that they have COVID, they have tested positive, and they are on the other side? Because there's many people who are testing positive, but they're not having any symptoms. But you were on the side of the folks who actually are getting sick. What would you like to say to someone who just today is just starting those symptoms and Like how what's your advice for them to get through the next 3 weeks of their life?
I'm not a nurse and I'm not a doctor, so I don't pretend that I am. But from my own personal situation and experience, I say try your best if you can. Now, if you're in any danger, yes, of course, you should go to the hospital. But I think you're safer in your own home myself, just simply because you're the only COVID person in your house. And if you're with other people that have COVID, they're your family members or someone that you live with anyways. So that's just my personal opinion.
Hmm.
Um, the doctors are doing what they can, the nurses are doing what they can, and I just think we should be grateful.
Absolutely. Do you have any thoughts on other people speaking out and other people coming forward and sharing their COVID stories? Is that something you would like to see more of? Do you think maybe that would? I think if people actually saw and heard actual stories from survivors, that it may or maybe it might not, but it just may start to get people talking and realizing that this is real. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's important to share your experience if you have one. Um, if you've got a loved one that has had it, or even if you've had it yourself, I think it's good to share, because I do believe that that would help someone else make a better decision.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, um, when you got tested, did you know? Did you feel that that's what you had? Like
Unfortunately, yes, because I told my husband I have to go and get tested.
okay,
It
so
wasn't it wasn't a second questioning. It was like, okay, I got something I've never had in my life before, and I know it's not good, so let's get tested.
okay. Now, people are going to ask this: do you have any residual effects? How is your breathing? How is your lung capacity? How is that COVID fog? Has that gone? Is it still there a little bit?
I would say I'm about 98% well. Like I don't think, and my focus has changed since COVID. Health is way more important than wealth. You know, like honestly, my focus has changed. My priorities have changed. Um, it's amazing what sickness does for you.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that's yeah. I liked what you just said. Um, Health before wealth. Now, I know that the first lockdown, you retired from one job and you've just retired from another job. Uh,
No, it was actually the second
Second,
wave.
okay, second.
I retired from one job, and just today I retired from another job. But everything was part-time.
Okay, so these have happened because of the lockdowns, or this was like a personal decision,
Different focus.
different focus. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I think that again, exactly what you just said.
Yeah,
Health over wealth. You're just
yeah.
focusing different. Well, I thank you very much, Brenda, for coming on and sharing your story and for being so open and honest. The one thing I would like to know, your birthday was on January 22nd. How much longer after that January 22nd did you feel better? Because you said you feel 98%, but how were you in February and March?
It's been a gradual process. It's not something that you get sick and you're well the next day. It's certainly not like that. There is a process involved. And for a while there, I was wheezing too at night,
You were wheezing.
wheezing, but I'm okay now.
Okay. And that was after that first 3 weeks, you were still wheezing or during those 3 weeks?
Well, during those 3 weeks, but also after, but not for very long.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, again, thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming on and being my very first guest. I hope you enjoyed yourself and hope
Okay, well,
everybody
thank you.
at home has just got a little bit more information, a little bit more education of somebody dealing with COVID-19. So this is In the Zone with Joan, and we have been on air with Brenda from Brantford, talking about her COVID-19 health scare this year. And we wish you good health, Brenda, and thank you so much.
And thank you, Joan, for having me.
You're welcome.